Coming up on this episode of One-on-One Sports,
we break down one of the most exciting golf tournaments we've seen in quite a while.
Discuss the NHL Playoffs.
And talk some of the best sports siblings.
All of that and so much more.
And it all starts
right now. Hello and welcome to this episode of One-on-One Sports. I'm Matt Holzaffel.
And I'm Andrew Vandellis. A lot happened this past weekend in the world of sports, but before we get started, let's step up to the plate for quick hitters. Magic Johnson resigned as president for the Los Angeles Lakers last week. In a press conference, Johnson explained that the position did not allow him for any room to be himself. Matt, what do you think Johnson's resignation means for the Lakers going forward, and do you think he had a plausible reason?
It means they have a lot to figure out. First of all, you're out of GM, you're out of coach now, and I don't blame him, honestly, because this was a dumpster fire and not necessarily just missing the playoffs. There was a lot of problems, and it started with Luke Walton being gone. Magic Johnson, clearly there was a lot of turmoil because he was happy to leave. Yeah. He was like, they got problems, but they're not my problems. And you saw Luke Walton was hired within 24 hours by Sacramento. So it wasn't him. He's a decent coach. It's not his problem. The Lakers surely understand that part of the problem that led to Walton's, being ousted was that he was not Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson's coach. He was already there, and we knew that. But they weren't even willing to give him a chance, and that's why this failed.
I only have an issue with one thing. He didn't tell Jeannie Buss prior to this at all, and that's my biggest issue, the lack of transparency. He went straight to the media. But I get that. I get that it's a big career decision as well. But also, you should always give your notice. The Lakers situation isn't the worst in the NBA either. There are far worse situations. Is it disappointing that he left? Yep. Yes, but luckily there's no blood between, the Buss family and Johnson. So hopefully, best of luck to both of them. And Magic said he wanted to get back into being a mentor and a businessman, and that this limited his ability. To your point,
not a bad situation. You got LeBron. This is the Los Angeles Lakers.
You got young talent.
You could poach a coach potentially from any team in the NBA. The problem is this: if they rush into committing to a Ty Lue, a Monty Williams, a Juwan Howard, then you scare off all the proven coaches who want to come there, and you say, oh, they want a guy who's new.
You think Ty Lue could reunite with LeBron?
Absolutely. I think he absolutely could. They're looking to commit to him tomorrow, which is a mistake. But I digress. Do the full search. Find someone who wants to be there and who has more experience than these three guys.
I agree, though. Magic can't really fault that reason if he really wants to do what he loves. And if this stopped him from doing that, always be
tweeting.
happy.
He wants to tweet. That's what he wants. 2018-2019 NBA season was the last dance for legends Dwayne Wade and Dirk Nowitzki. However, they both rode off into the sunset in different styles. Wade enjoyed a season-long retirement tour, while Dirk didn't make his retirement official until the final home game of the season. Andrew, if you're retiring, would you rather have a retirement tour or a quiet and subtle last season?
Well, I think what Dirk did here was the most Dirk Nowitzki thing he's ever done.
100%.
It speaks to his character. President once said, speak softly, carry a big stick. Mm-hmm. Perform, don't talk yourself up. This is exactly the type of person Dirk is, was, and always will be, and he's not overshadowing the team or making this bigger than the season itself.
I want to preface this by saying I would strongly prefer both these guys still be playing in the playoffs right now. I'm sure everyone would, because we'd love to watch that
competition.
But you're right. This was the most Dirk thing possible. Personally, I'd like the retirement tour, like Mariano Rivera, Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade did the jerseys. Mo got gifts from every team. It's fantastic. But you're right. That's just not who Dirk is as a player. And I think they both did what suited them best. And more importantly, it sucks to see them both leave the game.
He went out on a loss, but listen to this last game. He played 32 minutes, 20 points, 10 rebounds. That's pretty much a good celebration of your retirement as anything, because, Dirk was that guy. He was that franchise for Dallas, led him to a title, which is awesome. First ballot Hall of Famer without a doubt, and he performed under any circumstances.
They both had very good last couple games. I'll say this for Dirk in Dallas. He leaves Dallas in a much better spot than Dwayne Wade leaves Miami. Dallas has Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis, and a bunch of young guys, a promising team. Miami didn't make the playoffs this year. They're not going to make it next year either. They're going to end up in the lottery sooner before they end up in the playoffs.
In two different circumstances, but two equally great legends leaving.
Absolutely.
UCLA softball team has been in the top tier for a long time, but this season they'll get the chance to live up to the hype as they held the #1 ranking for 5 straight weeks. Matt, do you think the Bruins have what it takes, or will they cool down as this season goes on?
Well, they've got what it takes for sure. I mean, you just look at the individual production, and that just paints the picture right there. Rachel Garcia has 16 wins by herself. And I get that softball is different than baseball because they can pitch more often, but that's almost half the team's wins. Her ERA is .65, not 1.65, .65. Kelly Godin is hitting 47, third best in the country. The team has the lowest ERA. This team is built to last all season.
They might have lost to Oregon, but no matter what, they're still one of the top ranking teams in the league. You stole my Rachel Garcia, stat, but I get one, you get one every time. Kelly Godin, 487 average. Both of them rank in the top 5 in batting averages and ERA in the country, and on top of that, they're hitting 4th in the country with, at the time of this filming, a 347 average from behind and a league-leading ERA average of 112. They have potential to be on top for a very long time or get back to the top and perform this season if they keep going all out from both sides.
And they did
of the
split that series with Oregon, so it wasn't like they just lost straight out. And this is a program, not just in UCLA softball, UCLA as a whole, that is just used to winning. UCLA has among the most championships in all of college, and softball is going to get them one sooner rather than later.
And softball is one of those sports where, one loss, that's nothing. It's very hard to go when you have that many games to go perfect. And the fact they went that long at number 1 is amazing.
Very impressive. In 2015, then Arizona Cardinals head coach Bruce Arians made history by hiring the first ever female NFL coach. Now, as the head coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Arians has officially hired 2 more female assistant coaches, one for strength and conditioning and the other for the defensive line. Andrew, do you think this will inspire NFL coaches to hire more females in the future?
Absolutely. We saw this with the NBA, and I believe the Spurs not too long ago as well. I don't see this as an inspiration because it doesn't need to be. I see this as a revelation. Realizing that people are realizing that diversity in a coaching staff can help the team. Experiences, perspectives, voices. I can go on forever about this, and I only hope it turns out great for the Bucs. It doesn't have to be inspiring because it should becoming a norm. Not only become a norm, rather. Not just in the NFL, but all across sports.
I completely agree, and to give Bruce Arians some credit, he said, I know how hard it is to get in the door. But once you get your first opportunity, everything blossoms from there. So he gave these females, or some of these women, their first opportunity.
They need a platform.
And they ran with it, and it's fantastic. And now we have seen more women in the future since that when he was the Cardinals head coach. We've seen Catherine Smith, Buffalo, Katie Stowers, San Francisco, Kelsey Martinez, Oakland, all joining NFL
referees
teams.
As well.
And this was the first time, was it last season, a couple years ago? And the whole thing with the NFL, it's not a man's sport. Yeah, they're playing it, but there's so many opportunities for women to get involved.
So many different outlets in all the sports world. I'm glad everybody's getting a chance.
Me too.
That's all the time we have left for the quick hitters. When we get back, I'll hit the hardwood with Will Burns, Brad Clear, to talk who deserves the most coveted NBA awards. The 2018-19 NBA season brought out some exceptional play from athletes throughout the league. With that in mind, I'm joined at the desk by Brad Clear to break down his expectations of who will be taking home hardware for this season. So, Brad, your Rookie of the Year. Who is it?
It's got to be Luka Doncic. The dominance that he had for probably 70% of the season, scoring ability, passing the ball, just poise and control of the game, like a Manu and James Harden-esque hybrid with great size. Everyone knows how great he is. Trae Young was right behind him the last 25% of the season. Trae Young was an absolute beast. Offensive dynamo who can create for everyone else, can shoot the ball from 3, can get to the rim. All-around offensive creator. Other guys that have in the running, I think Marvin Bagley had a great year, Jaren Jackson Jr. had a great year, and then DeAndre Ayton and Colin Sexton towards the end of the year came on strong as well.
A very big pool to choose from a very talented class. So now we're going to move on to most improved player.
Pascal Siakam. The guy went from a really nice, versatile role player to a guy who has a bona fide star future in this league.
One of the top 3 scorers on the Raptors, too.
Yeah, the guy can guard all 5 positions, shoots the ball from the corner from 3, scores in the paint. The guy's an absolute beast. After that, De'Aaron Fox really improved this year. D'Angelo Russell became an all-star. Buddy Hield improved. Miles Turner, John Collins. This is a very deep award, but for me, I think Siakam is above the rest.
So finally, Defensive Player of the Year. Who is it and why?
So this one, I think, really came down towards the end, but I think it'll be Giannis Antetokounmpo. Simply put, the guy can guard all 5 positions at an elite level. You can't really figure out how to game plan when he is guarding you, and other teams can't match up well with their offensive player, with him defending them. I think Rudy Gobert was in the running towards the top for most of the year. I'd have him second. He's just a staunch presence in the paint, makes that Jazz defense function so well. Paul George was probably up there at some point also. I would probably go Giannis 1, Gobert 2, Paul George 3, then Joel Embiid 4.
Do you think Giannis could take home double awards with MVP?
I fully expect him to.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah,
but
another discussion, but I fully expect him to. We've seen from the ballots that have been made public through podcasts or whatever, he's probably going to win the MVP. He's probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year, and both are deserved for how great he was on that NBA's best regular season team, Milwaukee Bucks.
That's all we have from the court. Next, Matt will be joined by Luis Miller to take a look at this year's NHL Playoffs. Stay tuned.
"31 teams started the NHL regular season in October. Now in April, we only have 16 left. Well, these teams battled out for an opportunity to raise Lord Stanley's Cup. Luis Miller is here to break down the craziest surprises so far from the Stanley Cup playoffs. So, Luis, what do you got? Give me your craziest surprises.
Okay, to start this off, what is going on with Tampa Bay?
Right?
The
Oh my
Tampa Bay
God.
Lightning, 62 wins in the regular season. It's like they use all their energy during the regular season because they haven't won one game, and they had great energy in Game 1 in the first period. They scored 3 unanswered goals. They're up 3-0 going into the second. And then out of nowhere, they just got shut down. It's like the Blue Jackets they rejuvenated. They just look like the better team, and they're not. They're honestly not. But Tampa, they 3-0 in the first, and then give up 7 unanswered goals in Game 1 and Game 2 combined. Vasilevsky, great first period in Game 1. Terrible Game 1 and 2. Bobrovsky, terrible first period in Game 1. Great Game 1 and Game 2. And I don't know what's going on. It just looks like the Jackets have more heart and soul than the Lightning do. It kind of looks like the Lightning just put their players out on the ice and were like, this is a must.
Right, I was going to ask you, if you can do the impossible and explain, you just think it's just heart and soul. Maybe Tampa Bay's tired because they played hard all season?
That's what I was saying. I feel like they use too much energy, but I mean, their team on paper is so deep. You would expect them to win you would expect them to sweep the Blue Jackets, but now they're down 3-0 in a series, and only 4 teams before came back 3-0.
And they were the odds-on favorite to win the Cup, too.
Oh, yeah, I had them winning the Cup in my bracket. The second team I want to talk about, though, is the Pittsburgh Penguins. This is the first time since 2013 they've been down in a series 2-0, but they're down 3-0 now.
Yikes.
Against the New York Islanders. The Islanders just gave up Jonathan Tavares, who was their all-star, their captain. They gave him up for nothing last season to the Toronto Maple Leafs, and now they're up 3-0 to the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's an end of an era. You have Crosby, Malkin, Kessel. You have Matt Murray in net, and they're down 3-0. Again, another solid, structured team, and they're not doing anything, honestly. They look dead. The Lightning, they're a great team. They can turn it around like that. But the Penguins, on the other hand, they look like they're burnt out.
So you think it's more likely Tampa Bay rebounds than Pittsburgh?
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Okay.
The Lightning are that much better of a team than Pittsburgh is. Lastly, I gotta go with my New Jersey Devils. They're not in the playoffs. They didn't even come close. But they won the lottery, man.
Good for them. They won something.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It was a great victory because you go from making the playoffs last year and losing in 5 games to the Tampa Bay Lightning to being one of the worst teams in the league, having one of the worst bounce-back seasons, and winning the lottery. I mean, that kind of puts like a bright side to this. It gives this season a silver lining.
It's like you suffered so long, it's worth it, right?
Exactly.
Hey, listen, we've got 30 seconds left. Why don't you stick around? Let me ask you something. If you could pick a dream matchup in the Stanley Cup Finals, who would it be?
I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Lightning and Nashville Predators.
Okay.
The Lightning, like I said, just a great team. And then the Preds, they're deep. They have Pekka Rinne in net, who's amazing. And Philip Forsberg versus Nikita Kucherov, that would be an amazing shootout to watch.
Quickly before we go, who wins that if they face each other?
Nashville.
Nashville?
Nashville,
All right.
They've been there before.
Tampa Bay struggling, Pittsburgh 2, Nashville Stanley Cup champion pick, but we have to skate out of here. Up next, Anna will be putting on the green jacket to discuss one of the greatest comebacks the sports world has ever seen.
In what could be one of the greatest comeback stories in sports, Tiger Woods won his 5th green jacket at the Masters on Sunday. This was Woods' first major championship win in 11 years and his 15th overall. Woods won his first Masters 22 years ago when he was 21 years old. After a 10-year drought filled with injuries and off-course drama, I asked our golf experts, Christian Carmi and David Flint, is Tiger Woods officially back? But before we get to that, David, who underperformed?
I don't know how you can't say Rory Mcilroy here. He made the cut barely, and then you never heard his name on the weekend. Never saw any camera shots of him. Didn't even hear his name for a bad reason, like blowing up an 80 like he did that one time on Sunday at the Masters. It's better when your name is being said, even if you're playing poorly, than if it's not being said at all, especially if you're a player of his stature. And he just was a non-factor all week, essentially.
And he came
Bad
in hot.
showing.
Yeah, I mean, he came in hot. He was having great weeks up until then. He was the perpetual favorite. We all thought Rory McIlroy was going to finally break through after that 2011 slump. It just didn't happen. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So now, Christian, who exceeded expectations for you?
So I said Xander Schauffele. He finished tied for second. Who saw that coming? He played unbelievable all week. Also, shout out to Patrick Cantley, barely making the cut at +2. Made it all the way to on a -14 run to -12. That's pretty impressive.
Certainly is, and both those names you mentioned are worthy of that distinction, but Ian Poulter, been around a while, but has always had the reputation of being a great Ryder Cup player who doesn't play well in the majors. Yeah, he ended up only tied for 12th, but that's an automatic invite back next year. Played with Tiger on Saturday. Tiger only beat him by 1 stroke. He basically played it like a match play round against Tiger and almost tied him. So when you do that against Tiger, who eventually won the tournament, and well, he's Tiger, you've done a great job, and Ian Poulter should be very proud of the way he played this week.
Definitely. And now let's talk the story everyone wants to know. David, what is your biggest takeaway from the Masters?
Do I even need to say it?
I don't think anyone needs to say it for that matter, but go ahead. The floor is yours.
Tiger won. He's back. He's healthy. And the generation of players that is now up that grew up idolizing him now knows what it feels like to be beaten by him. And that's a wonderful thing for the game of golf.
Yes, this is one of the best comeback stories in the history of sports, not just golf, of sports. This
No
is
question.
Other than 1986 when Jack won his last Masters, this was probably the best Masters we've ever seen. Talk about Tiger's 43 years old.
Yeah.
It's been 10 years or 11 years since he's won a major championship, and I don't think he's done. So he won this Masters. The next two majors, PGA Championship, where Bethpage Black, where he won last time.
Yep.
In May, U.S. Open at Pebble Beach, where he had arguably the most dominant win ever. He won it at -12. The next closest player was at +3, a 15-stroke lead.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the stars are aligning.
Any more takeaways other than Tiger, though?
I mean, it was unfortunate for Molinari. I mean, we saw coming down the 11th, right? So Koepka and Poulter both put it in the water on 12. Everyone saw that, right? And he goes up there, and the wind. He just didn't count for the wind, puts it in the water on 12, Tiger sticks it. Unbelievable.
Yeah. And I think another big takeaway is everybody on the leaderboard with the back 9 to go. There were 10 guys that could have won that tournament.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, our tea time is up, but don't go away. Up next, Matt will be joined at the lounge by Emmanuel Taube, Drew Gentry, and special guest, former Elon student body president Kenneth Brown Jr., to break down Elon men's and women's basketball.
Elon's men's and women's basketball teams moved into the beautiful Schar Center this season, and after the inaugural season in the new arena, I'm joined by Emmanuel Taube, Drew Gentry, and former Elon student body president Kenneth Brown Jr. to break down the biggest stories from the season. So guys, the men's team has a new coach. Mike Schrage will take over for Matt Matheny after an 11-21 season. What does this mean for the program moving forward that we have a new head coach, new guy at the helm?
I think one thing that it means excitement. I mean, loads of people are excited about this new coach. Given some of the lackluster seasons the men's basketball team has produced over the past few years and kind of getting a fresh take and fresh eyes, like just the amount of experience he has bring, like Ohio State, Butler, Stanford, Duke, like there's power in being around, and Mike has been around.
Oh yeah, and I definitely agree with that point that you were saying about the experience. You know, as you said, it's not just about the teams, but also the names that he's been with. You know, Bob Knight, Coach K, like just so many great names. He has that experience where, you know, not just going through different situations, but, you know, people like Coach K, people like Bob Knight, they also not just know how to coach, but also know how to manage players and know how to really help and encourage and motivate. And he got that experience learning from them. So I'm really excited to see how he motivates our players, how he encourages them, and just how he teaches as well.
And going off of that, he also brought in Tyler Lewis, a former guard at NC State, and Butler to be the basketball operations, and they've been active in recruiting since they agreed to the deal. They've been traveling all up and down the East Coast. They're trying to get future Phoenix in here, and they're trying to make the Schar Center pop in and bring that environment environment that we had for the first half against Chapel Hill for every game. And when if you start to even just build up, when it takes off, it's going to catch fire.
Yeah, I think one thing that Coach Schragi should do, like, there's also another word that comes to mind is capitalize. I'm like, we saw how many close games the men's basketball team lost, 2 overtime losses to Northeastern, 2 one-point losses, including one to UNCG. It's just like so many times, like, this team has been there, the pieces have been there, but finishing wasn't their strong suit. Now, if they just get over that hump, I think we can see some pretty big wins next season.
Yep. I agree, but on the standpoint of finishing, some people say that it's on the player. Some people that say that it's on the coaching. A lot of people say it's on the environment as well. And if you're at home, that having the fans rile you up if you're down by 2 or if it's a tie game. So it's not just the players that need to come. It's not just Coach Schragi that needs to come, but also the fans, especially when we have the team that we're going to have and the growth that we're going to have this season as well.
Elon men's team, no NCAA tournament period since 1997. Look to change that with a new coach at the helm. Say about the women. So 2 straight CAA championships and NCAA tournament berths. However, 9-21 this season under Coach Charlotte Smith. How can they change that?
Tough question. I think they just have
not an easy question.
Not an easy question, but I think one thing that, so they've been through the lows, and so when you've been through the lows, you're also going to go through some highs. This season, so they lost Rashika White to Middle Tennessee, lost Jada Graves in the first game. A very young class this season, a young class last season, but they had some experience. They had no experience this time around, and then some of the players just went cold in the second half of the season. And so just developing that tough mentality, getting scrappy. I mean, like, we have a tall team. Only 2 players are below 5'9". So just get big, get tough. And then just play hard.
And you talk about experience, and a lot of people talk about the experience of winning and things like that. But if you look at our young core this year, you know what they didn't have a lot of experience doing? Losing.
Yes.
They have not had a lot of experience losing until this year. So I think this year was definitely a period of growth for the team, as they went through a lot of struggles that they have not been through since they
adversity. Yeah,
they've been really looking for a true leader to take the reins and take them to the next level. This year they went from 2 mountaintops down to the lowest of valleys that they could, and now they're trying to get back to the top. And it's really, who wants to take control? Is it going to be Sadia Mumford? Is it going to be Bree? Is it going to be any player? If you want to take the reins, and this team can take off and go back to being the top at the CAA.
Yeah, and one thing that you can count on is Coach Smith using this past season has motivation for next season. And her mentality is probably going to be next person up. Keep going.
She will not let her players forget this season. 4 straight winning seasons, and this season obviously fell off. We talked about it. No seniors, one of the youngest teams in the country. Kenneth Brown Jr., huge Elon sports fan. Then these 2 guys, members of the Elon women's basketball broadcasting team. So these are our experts. We have the very best of you guys. Well, that's all the time we have for Elon Hoops. Stay tuned for Andrew and I talking about athletes with the same name right after this.
This past weekend, Baltimore Orioles first baseman Chris Davis broke his 0 for 50 batting streak, an MLB worst. Meanwhile, Oakland Athletics outfielder Chris Davis, with a K, started his season off hot with 10 home runs and 18 RBIs so far. With opposite starts to their season, Matt, what is your favorite athlete pair of athletes with the same names?
All right, so I went Steven Jackson and Steven Jackson. So, of course, Steven Jackson with a V, 3-time All-Pro running back for the Rams, Falcons, Patriots, over 11,000 career rushing yards, almost 70 rushing touchdowns in his career. Very good career, although obviously he kind of petered out towards the end, but still a great career. Then you have Steven Jackson with a PH, 0-time All-Star for 9 different NBA teams, career role player. However, he did play a key role on the San Antonio Spurs team that won the ship in 2003. Career average 15 points a game, 4 rebounds, 3 assists rather. So Steven with a bit more successful, but 2 guys who did held their own in professional
I got a couple parallels
sports.
from the NBA, 2 of them, the Isaiah Thomases.
Oh, of course.
Isaiah Thomas, Isaiah, Thomas. 5 separate teams led Celtics to the Eastern Conference Finals a couple years ago, which is fine. But he really fell off the map. 5 different teams. Really tiny guy, like what, 5'9"? That one. But still a good role player. I believe he's in Denver right now.
Yeah.
Having a good job. But Isaiah Thomas, the Hall of Famer, NCAA basketball beast as well, 1981 champion with Indiana, 13-year career with the Pistons, 1990s Finals MVP, 2-time NBA champion, 12-time All-Star. The only thing that these two have in common is their name, which isn't even spelled the same way.
Yeah. And one Hall of Famer, one was looking like he could go that direction early on, but definitely petered out.
No disrespect.
Of course, no. Injuries, and we get it. Isaiah Thomas, the current one, has had a tough career. Promising, though. Want to see him come back.
A lot of parallels here, but that's all the time we have for this episode of One-on-One Sports.
A huge thank you goes to all of our producers, crew, talent, and of course you, the viewer, for tuning in.
If you like what you saw and you want to see more, be sure to check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, all at One-on-One Sports.
That's all from us here in the studio.
So until next time,
Whose side are you on?